Hey guys, what's up? I got quite a few invasions for you today, and as promised in my last video, I've got a number of different locations, none of which is Grand Archives. You'll see I bounce around soul levels quite a bit, and I'll try to draw attention to it where I think it's relevant. This guy is soul level 54, one of my builds I created in response to one of Evenings of Saint invading. So I see the host here is giving me the welcome gesture. So I'm buff up with Carthus Rouge. I've been using the Flamberge quite a bit lately, and it's worked out really well for me. And by the way, I don't think I included it here, but the red there that you see was actually summoned. He did not invade. So I'm definitely thinking I'm about to get ganked, so I'm kind of keeping my wits about me. But at the moment, nobody else is really getting involved. And this guy's Ultra is doing like no damage. But I'm, just trying to stay away from the host. As long as he's not going to get involved, I'm just going to fight this Phantom one-on-one. But this Flamberge, man, I've been really, really digging it. And one thing I learned actually during one of Saint's streams the other day, I invaded him, and he had his sword and board build, and he is really freaking good with that. And maybe we'll come back and talk about that in a few minutes. We'll talk about his sword and board build. But I was trying to figure out who I was going to fight. Looks like the summon red. He's summoned, so he probably is embered. Probably has a substantial health advantage. And he's got some sort of like crystal magic weapon buff, or maybe just a regular magic buff on his straight sword. So I kind of have the odds against me somewhat. But I decided to just go ahead and fight this guy straight up. And I almost kill him there. And then he heals. So I decided to kind of trade there, even though I knew I would trade. I forgot just how much that weapon art hurts. And something funny happens. The host gets involved, but I'm pretty sure he's going after the red that he just summoned in. Yep. And there I go to trade again, and I get interrupted. That weapon art on that straight sword is so awesome. One thing that sucks about this build is I have so very little attunement that at most I get like 4 weapon arts out of it, and then I'm out of FP. The red here makes a fatal error. He kicks. I thought that was so cool though. I invade this guy and he's attacking the red that he summoned, presumably because he wasn't operating by whatever rules of the little fight club were that he was trying to set up. So I know a lot of times when people run fight clubs, they're short on embers because they're not getting embers from invasions, but they lose them when they die. So I dropped that guy a shit ton of embers and decided to black crystal out. But back to Saint's build. Fighting him straight up with his sword and board build and a great sword is probably a losing proposition for me. He's just too damn good, and especially too damn good with that build. So I've never ever used the weapon arts on the great swords, but I thought that would be a time to start. And I was really, really impressed by how effective they were at roll catching, throwing off people's timing, getting counter hits. And I'm not sure if I was like dropping frames here, but I was having a hard time reacting to this guy's R1s on his katana. But I had a lot of luck with it, and so I've been working the weapon arts from this greatsword into my game, and you'll see that quite a bit through these clips. And it makes me wonder how I ever survived without them before. And in fact, you'll see this guy later switches to a greatsword and actually roll catches me with the weapon art. Normally I roll on reaction, so that sort of thing wouldn't get me, but because I was having such a hard time reacting to his swings, I started rolling prematurely. Actually, that's a funny thing I wanted to talk about too, panic rolling. We kind of use that phrase panic rolling to refer to any sort of rolling that isn't on reaction, but I think it's useful to kind of differentiate between what I see as at least 2 types. There's what I think of as like true panic rolling, where the host is just in fear for their life and they're just roll to get away from you. That's panic rolling. But then there's another type that I would call anticipatory rolling, which is if you've played a little bit of PvP, you know when people are liable to attack, and so you start rolling in anticipation of the attack, which of course a good opponent will use to their advantage and will delay their attack just a beat beyond what you might expect, and that's how you roll catch people. So I was doing some anticipatory rolling, just because I was having trouble rolling on reaction. So we've got one Phantom down, we got a Phantom in the host left, and this Phantom here actually seems to be doing a pretty good job. I also know that he's playing unlocked to a certain extent, and generally you don't see that unless somebody is kind of clueful. One setup that I have so many problems with, one-handed greatswords. I have a hard time seeing the swing start, even though the swing is a couple frames slower than a straight sword R1 one-handed. I typically have a better time rolling out of a straight sword one-handed than I do out of a greatsword. I get lucky there. He went for the weapon art, and I just barely broke him out of that. And there he gets the roll catch, which is really nice. And he's not healing, so I decide I'm not going to either. Especially because the host is just standing there watching. And because he's playing unlocked too, he doesn't always step forward towards me, which makes it harder to space him. So here I have a brainwave, and I decide to go for the weapon art, and I get a counter hit on him, and I'm able to finish off the fight. I'm obviously here using my hyper armor to force my way through his one-handed greatsword swings. The other player was using it one-handed, but I feel like he understood the trade-off that he was making. I didn't get the sense here that the host really did. So this here is my level 125 character. This invasion actually happened during Project Goof's stream, when I think I was trying to stream snipe him at one point, and I ended up invading this crew. I'd actually invaded this guy earlier, and he and his Phantom and a blue had ganked the shit out of me and pursued me very aggressively and shut me down and killed me. So I'm going to kind of dance around here for a minute and see if there's anybody lurking about that I haven't accounted for yet. That's an error that's cost me more than a few fights lately, where I think I know who's in play, and then I get surprised by another group. If I'd fought this guy for very long, this mage here, he has a habit that I noticed, which is he likes to cast the, I can't think of the name of the one with the orbs above your head that move really slowly. And then he likes to move in and try to catch you if those hit you and stun you with his Moonlight Greatsword. And that type of repetitive play is a good way to get parried. And there he does it again, but this time my attention was diverted and I didn't get out of the way. But I saw the blue sign, so I figure I'm going to beat a retreat and see if I can go track down this blue and deal with him before I have to deal with these two guys and the blue at the same time. But I don't see him. And a lot of times blues are AFK, you know, they got the Covenant equipped, but they're not at their PS4 or whatever. So I decided to just go back and fight these guys. And that is something that annoys the shit out of me. When spells hit an obstacle between you and the spell, but you still take the damage from the spell. I mean, it's happened enough now where I should just know to roll regardless. A lot of times when I play groups like this, unless they prove otherwise, I will assume that they are not going to execute rolling attacks. Because if you start trying to roll out of the way or something when they roll in fear of a rolling attack, you end up giving up too much space and you end up ceding too much kind of momentum. So I much prefer to kind of stay on their nuts and sort of make them prove that they're going to execute a rolling attack. You also try blocking with your weapon when you do that. You just gotta be real careful with your stamina when you do that. I think the stability on the curved greatswords is actually okay. I think it's probably around 35-ish. So as long as your stamina is reasonably high, you can pretty safely block with it. Now, I don't know if I didn't press R1 soon enough there, but I gave away a golden frickin' opportunity to do a plunging attack, which was pretty disappointing. So here I see something interesting. I kind of back off to heal, and I'm wondering what he's casting, and then I see the Corvian, and I realize he's cast Rapport on the Corvian, which is an interesting choice. I used to see this a lot towards the launch of the game when I would invade in Dragon Barracks. I would see people frequently use Rapport on the Knights there. And using Rapport on this Corvian is a smart tactic. I'm not sure how long Rapport lasts. I think it's like 20 seconds or ish. This guy's got the right idea there with using Perseverance, but his health was too low. And this guy makes a classic noob mistake here, which is he keeps getting his guard broken, and then he just reflexively throws his shield up to protect himself. And here I do not have the Hornet Ring on because I had to switch it out for the Obscuring Ring. So I was really glad I was still able to finish him off there. I'd have been pissed if that would not have killed him. So this is sticking with my soul level 130 character. I ended up having to run all the way around here. And I saw that a Phantom had gotten summoned in. So I know there's at least a host and a Phantom. And I've got my Obscuring Ring on. And unfortunately my tears kind of pop through here and light me up like a Christmas tree. So you'll see a lot of times I keep chewing grass in an attempt to mask my presence. I approach slowly and I see what appears to be a Phantom, and he bows, but I've learned that a lot of times when people bow, that's when you really need to be wary that they're trying to distract you. And until I get eyes on the host, I'm going to be exceptionally careful. And there I see him. He's trying to come up behind me. So both these guys are casters, which is always a dangerous situation. So I gotta kind of try to use hit and run strats and hopefully bait these guys in just a little bit further to get the PvE involved. And those javelins are perfect, man, because now they've got projectiles that they need to worry about. And this guy here with the mace makes the mistake I see a lot of people make, which is, and I've made it myself, which is that they go too quickly to Perseverance. And so I'm just going to be looking out for it, and I'm going to be thinking one swing, as soon as I approach him, and I'm just going to be looking for it. And as soon as I see it, I'm just going to roll out. Incidentally, if I had my straight sword out, the other thing I would be looking out for is a parry opportunity. As soon as he perseveres, press L2 and get the parry. I don't know that a dagger is really a good choice right here. Dagger would be a good one-on-one weapon, or a weapon if I were at really low health, but here I just don't see it being a very good option. I suppose if he were quick-stepping, maybe it might be better. And here he's got a shield out, so now I'm going to be super paranoid about getting parried. I'm not sure if like there was lag and one of my throwing knives killed him, or if maybe one of the javelins killed that Phantom. Now the host has a pretty big problem on his hands. He's going to keep healing in my face, but there's really nothing he can do to get me off his ass right now, especially with a dagger. Even if he does a turn and burn, he's just not going to do enough damage to me to make me want to get off of him. And I could not believe that R2 missed him. I thought for sure I had him with that. So we're sticking with my soul level 125 character, and I cut out quite a bit of the opening here of me running around looking for this guy. I think this was another example of me trying to stream snipe Project Goof. And so, normally when I invade a solo host, I'm usually not that worried, but, when you're stream sniping somebody like Goof or Saint, there's a ton of other people that are in the area trying to do the same thing. And so a lot of times when you invade, it could very well be one of those other people. So you got to really be careful and not underestimate your opposition, because you easily have one of the toughest fights ever on your hands. And this weapon, man, the greatsword, I sometimes have trouble with this thing. I mean, it just does loads and loads of damage. That backswing that it has on that follow-up R1, man, the weapon is so much more valuable because of it. It makes it so much harder to try to circle around and get a backstab. And that's something I've started doing more, just switching to my sidearm more frequently for chase downs. I think weapon switching is one of those kind of underrated skills, and knowing when to switch around. So here, we're transitioning back to my soul level 54 character. This was not during Saint's stream, but I had been having so much fun invading in Central Irithyll that I haven't reverted to my level 36 save. And here I see I've got a solo host, and I've mentioned this before, but I respect anybody that plays this game by themselves, especially when they play online, they play Embered. So I'm going to kind of just hang back here and let this guy take care of the PvP that's on top of him. In this type of move, it definitely causes me to lose fights that I otherwise could have won, but it's just no fun slaughtering defenseless hosts. But this guy actually gives me a pretty good game, and I always dug the Lothric Knight cosplay. I always thought that was a really cool look. And there he makes a mistake. He swings too many times and then tries to shield, but he actually picks up his game here quite a bit, and he doesn't make so many blatant mistakes. And there I somehow forget my roll button, but going back to what I said about the one-handed greatswords. And he roll catches me like a noob. That was really frustrating. And this is kind of cool right here. So this is such a classic skill. I move back in anticipating the second R1, and I'm able to space it so that I'm able to swing before he actually finishes his swing, which means he doesn't have any time to roll out. So I'm not sure if this is such a smart idea on his part. I guess he's trying to get a heal off, but in the process he's going into very dangerous territory. And I took the shield out and just see, because I saw him attacking immediately after I swung, and sometimes people will do that and they set themselves up for a really easy parry. But you can see there, he's being pretty cagey. He's mixing up his timings. He's doing more charged R2s, so I go ahead and put the shield away. And there he goes for a parry, but he ends up paying for it quite a bit. here I see him running off, and I'm presuming he's going to try to get another heal off. But I see he's not slowing down, and suddenly I'm filled with a sense of dread as I realize he's going to run for the fog, and he's probably going to make it. Except the PvE comes into the rescue at the very end and catches him right before the fog. I did not have enough stamina. If the PvE hadn't done that, there's no way in hell I would have caught him, and he would have definitely made it to the boss fog. So Carthus Rouge on the Flamberge is a super effective strategy. I frequently am able to bleed people out with this. It does a lot of extra bonus damage. Plus I like the threat. And I see this guy's all about having a PvP bout, so that's always exciting. But it creates a threat, right? They see that bleed meter start to build up, and that puts something in their head that they've got to think about. So here this guy makes a mistake. He goes for the running R1 and then immediately for the R1, and then here I see him go with the charged R2, and I decide to trade with him, get boatloads of counter damage, and then the follow-up weapon art to catch him. But when you do that R1, running R1, and then immediately a swinging R1, that's very predictable, and it helped me to kind of space him. And he only had like a couple of frames, and he was able to roll out. But very often I'll catch people when they do that. It's also an easy way to get parry. That's something a lot of people who parry look for. So I end up just kind of putting on a roll catching clinic here and bleed him for the victory. That felt really satisfying. Like I really didn't have a chance. Maybe I shouldn't have been so hard on him. I was watching Project Goof fight earlier today, and he was fighting groups of opponents with unupgraded weapons to try to teach them lessons, and I thought, man, that's awfully magnanimous of him. I am not skilled enough to do that. Maybe with a solo host I could get away with doing that. These Cathedral Knights are so scary, man. The timing mix-ups on their swings and the amount of damage they do and the seemingly endless pools of stamina from which they pull. There's very scary enemies. You'll see in this fight here, on more than a couple occasions, they very nearly kill me. They're both staying kind of right on top of each other, swinging in not in perfect unison, which makes rolling out of the way much more challenging. And the guy with the breakdance sword, man, that weapon just gives me fits. I guess conniptions would be more appropriate. I have a very tough time with that weapon. And these guys are a little laggy, so even when I time my swings correctly, I end up trading, which is really annoying. Like that. That totally should have interrupted him. Here I kind of run off towards the mobs to heal, and they don't give chase, which is smart, and I'm actually in a hurry to get back because if I give them much time to sit and think about it, they'll realize that there's absolutely nothing between them and the boss fog. There's absolutely no reason these guys need to fight me right now. In all probability, the only reason they're fighting me is because they think that they have a huge advantage and that they're going to kill me. And they're almost right. That was very, very close there. Man, watching this again, I'm cringing at how sloppy my play was. Here I see that the Sunbro hasn't healed, which means he's out of Estus. So now I'm kind of thinking about how I'm going to get him out of the game. And now that I've dispatched him, I feel like I got good odds on the host. But unfortunately, I'm completely out of Estus. Get some good roll catches on the host. I'm kind of trying to keep a lot of pressure on him because I don't want him to heal, and I also don't want him to make a break for the boss fog. One thing that became really obvious playing with the Dragonslayer Axe is that its roll catching capabilities are nowhere near as good as a straight sword. Oh, it was quite satisfying. Quite a few times there, I felt like I deserved to die. So to end the video, I wanted to show off this little invasion clip. This is actually me obviously getting invaded. I'm not sure if I've met this guy before, Dark Sauce Pirate. His name sounds really familiar, and I apologize if you're out there and I've met you before and I'm just not remembering the name. He invades me here in Dragonkin Mausoleum. I think I was just screwing around doing invasions of my own. So here he drops me something, and I see it as a ton of souls, which is awesome. Like, and I really needed those on this character too. So I think, okay, cool. Maybe I know who this guy is. Let's fight. But he just kills himself. So I don't know if he like just goes around and does that for everyone or what. But thank you, Pirate. Thanks, guys, for checking in. Take care now.